morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever this video finds you, welcome to Ticks. And I am rubbing my eyeballs because I was knocked out. I'm up. I'm up. You know, the funny thing about this whole situation is that you see the Democrats are very performative. There are some serious theater kids. They love the drama. I mean, let's be honest, the Democratic Party, as far as on the social level, has very much become white, man-hating, lesbian feminists, whereas the Republican Party is just all about the facts as far as how it stands today. So before we get into that, I just want to show the proof of how this woman FAFO. Y'all ready? And then we'll get into it. Let's go.
Get out of the car. Oh!
So what you're seeing here is the camera footage of the ICE agent that shot her.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine.
That's
you
white.
want to set us in former.
But the lesbian girlfriend, whatever the hell she is.
You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh!
Yeah, you hear the car hitting. You see the car hit him. You see the car hit him. You hear the car hit him. Fucking goofy ass lesbian white women.
Oh!
Yeah. Say midterms of 2026 needs to happen again. Yeah. So the officer is cleared. 100% cleared. 100% cleared. There's a photo that came with this. Let's see here. Where she looked him dead in the eyes before she hit him with the car. Hold on. It'll come up. Yeah, I'm not gonna wait for it. Oh, wait, damn, there it was. Never mind. Yeah, it's self-defense. Let's see if it'll come up again. I have to wait for it. Yeah, she looked him dead in the eyes. She's looking dead in the eyes before she hit that gas pedal. With that white people smile. You as a black person, you know this smile. You know that smile. Slammed on the gas and popped him, and he popped her back. End of discussion. So, not guilty, case dismissed. But let's get into this. You know, but what I think what's really troubling is that you have. I mean, of course, we know that the white lesbian man-hating feminist Confederates are going to defend it, make it into a big deal. But what's more disappointing is the slave Negroes who back their play, especially as a black male. You sound ridiculous. You sound ridiculous. But whatever. Let's get into this. I'm gonna stop talking like that. I'm gonna stop talking like that because I have to understand that, you know, there's a huge amount of irrelevancy when it comes to this race and politics. Let's go.
House floor. If we don't get this done, we're going to have to come back and vote after the floor votes, however long that lasts. So the first motion is the Luna motion to subpoena Neville Singham. It's now brought under consideration. Does any member wish to speak on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment to the motion.
State your amendment.
Thank you. Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of House Rule 11, the committee shall subpoena Lex Wexner to sit for deposition before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform.
Les Wexner is the funding mechanism
Okay.
for Epstein. Do it.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to recognize to explain the amendment briefly.
Okay.
He's still crying about it.
Explain your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an amendment, of course, to Representative Luna's motion. Lex Wexner is a longtime benefactor of Jeffrey Epstein, and at one point was Epstein's only documented client. Maria Farmer was abused in a house attached to Wexner's Ohio property and guarded by Wexner security staff. Virginia Giffrey was named Wexner in a deposition as one of the men she was trafficked to. Wexner also paid for Epstein's home in New York City. There is probably no one more important as it relates to the financing and the work of this investigation, with which both sides of the aisle are interested in, have voted to move forward, than ensuring that we bring Mr. Wexner in to come and be deposed by this committee. Public reporting has documented their long-standing ties. He should answer our questions in a non-partisan way to get the truth to the Epstein investigation, and that is the motion.
Would you, let's see, so I guess we're going to debate the amendment to the motion. Would you yield the question?
Sure.
We are serious about the Epstein investigation. And I think you've seen a lot of our members stand up and make it very clear they want to get to the bottom of Epstein. Nobody wants to do it more than I do. We also want to hear from Bill Clinton. And you all we voted a bipartisan manner to subpoena Bill Clinton, but we haven't gotten confirmation for President Clinton to come in for a transcribed interview or now a deposition. So are you all going to help us try to get Clinton in? I figure you guys.
I've been very clear, and I think the committee agrees that we're willing to talk to anyone, including the former president, if they have information regarding the Epstein investigation. And so the motion in front of us right now is on Lex Wexner, who is central to the Epstein investigation and probably knows more than anyone else about the financing and has been named by survivors. So that is in addition to Luna's motion, which, if part of the amendment, we can certainly take that vote.
Okay. Any other discussion on the Garcia amendment, Ms. Stansbury?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo my support for this subpoena and say two things. One, this is not a quid pro quo. This is an investigation. Mm-hmm. And so we will subpoena and support subpoenas for any co-conspirator and anyone who has evidence that's important in this case. Secondly, I want to note that this individual is actually named in the Department of Justice emails that were released in the partial release by the administration as one of the 10 co-conspirators the Department of Justice was investigating and was actually named. Okay. And finally, I just want to say this, Mr. Chairman. The Department of Justice has released, as we understand it, only 1% of the files in their possession. And I think we really want to know why this committee is not demanding the DOJ come in front of us immediately to account for this. And with that, I yield back.
Any other, Ms. Luna, your request to speak on the Garcia amendment to your motion?
I think that this is a sound motion for subpoena because Les Wexner has been named by victims and also too is in a number of documentaries. But I would like to at least offer my opinion and refute what Ms. Stansbury said regarding some of the files that have been released. There have been thousands of files released. So much so that, yes, there have been redactions, but most of the redactions, to my knowledge, have been pertaining to either CSAM materials and or victim information. I know that in one instance, there was potentially a breach of that, of which the DOJ immediately corrected. But we have also been working, at least my office has, with the Department of Justice to make sure that victims have received their direct information. So please understand, at least from my perspective, that it is not our opinion that there have been a holdback. I do know that the documents are on a rolling basis as well, similar to the other declassified files. However, aside from that, I do support Garcia's amendment, and I would encourage my colleagues to do so.
All right. Any other discussion of the Garcia amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of the amendment, of the Garcia amendment to the Luna motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to.
You want a recorded vote? Actually, no, we don't.
Okay.
We don't have time for that.
The now the debate is on the. Does any member wish to speak on the Luna motion as amended? Representative Luna.
Just so everyone is tracking, Neville Singham was referred to the Department of Justice, I believe, for FARA violations by then Senator Rubio when he served on the Senate Foreign Intelligence or Senate Intelligence Committee. Neville Singham, regardless of what you might feel about your colleagues, has been a mechanism and funding arm of the Chinese Communist Party. He's not a registered agent by FARA and has been connected to a number of riots, to include the anti-ICE riots being funded in Los Angeles, as well as a group that was tied to and being investigated for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, known as, I think it was the group of Socialism and Liberation, and then also to has been avoiding our request for him to come bring information to Congress. He is definitely someone that is anti-American in ideology, and regardless of where you might stand, even on topics like Israel versus Palestine, is funding certain groups that actually sow discord in this country with no efforts to actually resolve the issues, only to get us to fight one another. So I would encourage you all, at least if you don't politically agree with one another, to at least respect the fact that he is a known foreign agent to China, has not been registered as such, has been made to fund riots, and has been known to be the result of many of our own Americans being targeted with violence. And as a result of that, I do think that he should face subpoena. In the event that he's not subpoenaed, or that he does not answer the subpoena, I will be making a motion for inherent contempt. And I encourage my colleagues to support this motion.
Luna yields back. Representative Mann.
Thank you. Being new to this committee, I guess I'm just curious why this is happening in this hearing, and why we didn't have a chance to review this subpoena with some notice, so that, as much as I want to appreciate what you say and just take it at face value, we're all learning this right now, and it doesn't really give us a lot of time to do our research,
so
determine the validity of your subpoena requests. And so I just really,
involved.
From a procedural perspective, I'm just curious if this is normal.
I can respond and answer. Yeah, okay.
Do you yield to Luna or Garcia?
Yield to Garcia first.
Yeah, I just want to add that I understand these concerns. I'm going to recommend that we vote yes on the Luna motion. I think the representative made clear her support for the deposition that we're going to have with Mr. Wexner, and so that's going to be my recommendation for our committee.
And if I could just answer the question. So as part of the rules, if subpoenas are not sent in the traditional fashion through the chairman, individual members can actually make motions where the committee as a whole can vote on it. And so because Neville Singham has been avoiding receipt of our request for him to come in and just give basic information, because he has been known to be funding these groups that are literally causing us to eat each other alive, even sometimes within the House of Representatives, I do think that he needs to answer for that. And so to answer your question, that is why I made the motion today.
Any other members wish to speak? Seeing none. All those in favor of the Luna motion as amended by the Garcia amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion as amended is agreed to. Next up is the Luna motion number 2 to subpoena Jonathan Greenblatt. Does any member wish to speak on the motion? Ms. Luna.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment.
Okay, wait. We'll do your amendment first. Okay.
I think I have an amendment to Representative Luna. Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of House Rule 11, the committee shall subpoena Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi to testify in a hearing before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. And I have some comments if you'd like to recognize those now.
All right, state your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to recognize a motion. We, of course, I had a big hearing today, and we certainly shouldn't just be concerned with fraud that could be happening in states with Democratic governors, but also those with Republican governors. Fraud should be looked at anywhere it happens. The Wall Street Journal on Monday reported a massive Mississippi welfare scandal. Mississippi has seen years of scandals under multiple governors, but we have been silent as a committee. We didn't have any witnesses from Mississippi here today, and oversight Republicans aren't calling in Governor Tate. So this is an opportunity for the American people to hear about fraud wherever it occurs, and this motion will do just that, and I yield back.
Okay, so we're gonna deal with a lot of tit for tat and whataboutisms tonight. And I don't know why this guy thinks, Garcia here, why he thinks that the Republicans don't want to bring in even their own people when it comes to fraud. As we heard yesterday from J.D. Vance, they have now a special district attorney, a special attorney, a prosecutor, that's going to audit all 50 states. All 50 states. All 50 states are getting audited. I know I'm getting my Jermaine Shoemaker on. But yes, nobody is safe now. If you are corrupt and you're stealing taxpayer funds, I'm sorry. Not sorry. You will get the rope. Playtime is over. $36 trillion in debt. You don't get there by accident. Everybody can get it.
Okay. Now I'll recognize Mr. Luna to speak on the Garcia amendment to your motion number 2.
Fraud is fraud. I support this. I encourage my colleagues to do it. Doesn't matter if they're Republican or not. If he's guilty of it, bring him in.
Thank you.
Any other debate?
Mr. Chairman, I am wondering if the gentleman would allow me to move to amend his amendment to include the governor of Arizona, who admitted that they had $2.5 billion worth of fraud in Medicaid fraud just a year ago. The Attorney General did.
Okay. This is where my FFA parliamentary procedure came in place. Ellie, you can back me up. Amendment, there's a motion to amend the amendment. Do we go into that motion? All right. So Mr. Biggs has made an amendment to the Garcia amendment to the Luna motion. Does anyone wish to speak on the Biggs amendment to the amendment? And his is a subpoena the Arizona governor.
You start to see why it seems like nothing gets done in Washington.
Look, I'm glad that the representative wants to subpoena his opponent in the governor's race. Just to be clear,
if it makes you happy, I'll say not her. Let's bring in the AG.
No, I mean just to be
bring
clear.
in the AG.
Thank you, sir. Since I have the floor, I just want to say that my amendment is clear. We heard from one state today. I think it's important that we hear from Governor Tate of Mississippi. That's the amendment that I'm going to let stand as presented. If other motions are made, we can vote on those as appropriate.
Chair recognizes Mr. Biggs
I
to
think bring them all
specify
in.
his amendment to the amendment.
We're not with these people.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm
We don't
happy
care.
to
Bring them all in.
reword my amendment as instead of the governor of Arizona, if you want the attorney general. Because the attorney general is the one who stood up a year and a half ago and said that she had discovered $2.5 billion worth of waste in Arizona's Medicaid program, and that we need to find out more about that. So I'm content with doing that, and I just find it hilariously hypocritical to say, well, we want the dude from Mississippi because he's a Republican, but when you want to bring in someone from my home state, not even running against me, okay, that's why I move it, and to say, well, we can't do that. Can't do that because that would be, I don't know. It's just because this is the cycle you guys chose to get on. She has admitted, the Attorney General, that there's $2.5 billion worth of waste in the Medicaid program. I submitted that for the record earlier today, and well, let's have at it.
Will the gentleman yield?
Okay. So the amendment to the amendment is to subpoena the Arizona Attorney General. Does anyone wish to speak on the amendment to the amendment?
I'll speak after Ms. Crockett.
Mr. Crockett, Ms. Crockett.
I just wanted to clarify because I think the gentleman from Arizona said that this was over a year and a half ago, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
You asking me to yield? Yeah, I'll yield. Which question?
So you said over a year and a half ago?
No, it was. I believe it was last summer, about a year ago.
Okay, so about a year ago, there was an opportunity for you as a representative, and presumably before you were actually running for office. I think the concern is about using federal dollars to further political aspirations. And as someone who was representing Arizona, there should have been an opportunity for you to do something to try to subpoena. You could have tried to open an investigation. We know that the Republicans are the ones that control this committee and have controlled this committee for some time. So I just wanted to say that I definitely am opposed to this particular portion of I guess it's the amendment to the amendment.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Chair recognizes Mr. Fallon to speak on the amendment to the amendment.
Yeah, I support the amendment to the amendment because, I mean, a lot of us served in the state legislature, as I did for 8 years in the House and Senate in Texas. This is a systemic problem across all states. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of criminals and scumbags stealing money that's not going to where it's intended. So I don't give a rat's nuggets if it's Arizona, Mississippi, wherever. We need to be rooting this stuff out. So I'm fully in support of Mr. Biggs, and I think your efforts are noble. I yield back. I yield to Mr. Biggs.
Yeah, I appreciate the gentleman from yielding. I do find it rich to say, oh, you should have subpoenaed this a year ago. Just like you guys could have subpoenaed anybody you wanted to a year ago as well. So let me just add to this by saying our current governor is being investigated. And I don't want to get into that because she is currently being investigated for corruption and abuse. I'm not trying to get into that. What I'm trying to get into is what I thought we'd reach some comity here, that we are going to be going after fraud wherever it sits in these social welfare programs. And so you didn't like it. You thought I might be doing it for political purposes. It's not for political purposes. This is because Arizona has a systemic problem in their Medicaid program of $2.5 billion fraud that the Democrat Attorney General pointed out. Let's have her come in and explain how this has happened and what needs to be done to fix the systemic problems in Arizona. Maybe that would be helpful to fix the problems nationwide. That's all.
You're cutting it, but you're cutting it to the Democrats' money. That's the difference. That's the difference. You're cutting it to the Democrats' money.
Go back to the gentleman from Texas. Thank you.
Gentleman from Texas,
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Garcia for the amendment on the amendment.
Thank you. Just a final comment on this. I oppose the amendment, and here's
I bet you
very
do.
clear. Today we talked about 5 states, all states with Democratic governors, focused on one. The motion that we're making as an amendment is very clear. It's to bring in one Republican governor in comparison to what the majority has proposed in the past, and that's where we're leaving it. And so, at a minimum, the majority should want to bring in one Republican compared to the 6 that we discussed today. And so we're going to oppose this.
Would you yield?
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm fine if there's fraud in any state. Will you work with us to get Walz back in here so he can have an opportunity to defend what was stated today? Are you going to work with us on that?
I think that Governor Walz right now is looking at coming into the committee. Obviously, I'm happy to have anyone in front of us that's willing to explain. And
Well, a
talk
lot
to
of
the
people are
public
looking, but I mean, are they going to do it?
We're willing, oversight Democrats are willing to talk to any person, any governor, any person that can be in front of us, that we can explain issues that are important to the American public. We have no issue with Governor Walz coming in to testify.
Any other members speak? Recognition on the Biggs amendment to the Garcia amendment. Mr. Perry.
Mr. Chairman, if it will make it less political, if the maker of the secondary amendment would like me to offer it in his name, coming from nowhere close to Arizona, to subpoena the Arizona Attorney General regarding her statements about known fraud in Arizona, I'd be happy to do that. Well, then, since he's willing to do it, we can then.
Well, he would have to, Mr. Biggs would have to withdraw his amendment.
Can we get back to Greenblatt?
Then I'll withdraw and leave it in your capable hands.
The gentleman has withdrawn, and then I'll make the same motion to subpoena as a secondary amendment to the primary amendment to the primary resolution, the Attorney General from Arizona regarding her position and statements on fraud in Arizona in the Medicaid program.
I want to make sure everybody understands this. Representative Biggs has withdrawn his amendment to the amendment, and now Mr. Perry has filed an amendment to the amendment in the same language to subpoena the Arizona Attorney General. Does everyone understand that? Okay, now, do any Democrats, Mr. Min, you've had your hand up over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I
I want to
appreciated
try to
our
cover their ass.
conversation earlier today when you expressed very clearly that this should not be a partisan committee, that we should go after fraud in all forms, and at which point you also agreed that having some kind of investigative hearing into Mississippi might be appropriate. I appreciate your support of this amendment to the bill. If we're going to have amendments to amendments, I guess the one question I have, and this might be a proposal, the inspector generals were all fired at the beginning of Trump's term, in his second term. Those are the primary watchdogs for protecting the American taxpayer from waste, fraud, and abuse.
Apparently, they weren't doing their
So
job.
why are we not calling in Pam Bondi and anybody else who might have had knowledge and input into the decision to fire these inspector generals, as well as their staffs? And so I guess I would propose an amendment to the amendment that we have a hearing and subpoena Pam Bondi and others in this regard. Why were the inspector generals fired?
Are you making an official motion to amend
Yes,
the
I am.
amendment? And what is your motion?
That we subpoena Pam Bondi
You are making a motion to subpoena Pam Bondi.
around, and anyone else with knowledge around the decisions and input on the decisions to fire and terminate the inspector generals.
Now, I want to remind you, they've called votes, and I have a feeling this is going to keep going on and on and on. But
Yeah,
you've made
it
it a motion to amend
The amendment.
amend the amendment to the amendment.
Yep.
They're going in circle. This is circle
Hold
jerk.
on, stand here.
It's a circle jerk.
Amendment tree is now.
Yeah, you can only do that twice. That's a parliamentary rule. That's how. Okay. So you're done speaking. All right. Chair recognizes Mr. Donalds.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the committee recess or call the committee. You want to call a question? You just want to recess so we can go vote and come back and finish this out.
Okay, because we have votes
I'm
called.
flexible either way.
Right. I think that's a fair vote. They called votes about 10 minutes ago. So pursuant to the previous order, the committee will recess until immediately.
All right. Oh, God. That was such a circle jerk, wasn't it?
Thank you for joining us. I'm Taylor Murray in for Jan Jeffcoat. It is Thursday, January 1st, 2026. Happy New Year. We'll have much more about New Year festivities and America's 250 years as a nation straight ahead. But we begin this morning with a developing story out of Minnesota where that massive taxpayer fraud scandal is now drawing the attention of Congress. Angela Brown is joining us from the live desk. Now, Angela, House Republicans are turning up the heat, calling for answers, and now calling on Governor Tim Walz to testify about what went wrong and who knew what and when.
That's right, Taylor. Lawmakers on the House Oversight Committee are demanding answers from Walz and other leaders of Minnesota over the fraud scandal that rocked that state. Kentucky Representative James Comer is leading the charge on Capitol Hill. He says on January 7th, the committee will hear directly from Minnesota state lawmakers who sounded the alarm on this fraud. Then on February 10th, he wants Governor Tim Walz and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison to testify before the committee as well.
I look forward to going with my colleagues from the House Fraud Prevention Committee and talk about how we have been leading the fight to expose the fraud and hold agencies accountable for many months. I also look forward to talking about how to protect whistleblowers and for patterns that other states should be looking for in their own state program.
It's unclear right now if Walz and Minnesota AG will actually testify after they've been invited. House lawmakers suspect as much as $9 billion may have been stolen through abuse of government assistance programs. Investigators say some fake businesses were posing as daycare centers, medical providers, food assistance programs, and other services. In response to these allegations, the Trump administration has frozen all federal child care funding to the state. The Treasury Department is looking into whether tax dollars from Minnesota's assistance programs made their way to foreign terrorist organizations as well. We're keeping an eye on this.
And members of Minnesota's congressional delegation issued a formal letter to Governor Tim Walz demanding accountability for the statewide fraud crisis. They want to know if Walz will cooperate with the federal and the House Oversight Committee investigation and recuse himself from state investigations. Writing, quote, all told, leading government prosecutors now fear that the scale of taxpayer fraud in Minnesota exceeds over $9 billion in stolen funding. Not only will this be the largest fraud scandal in the U.S. history, but It will also contribute to the nearly $40 trillion in debt facing our nation. Minnesota Congressman Pete Stauber signed the letter and posted, quote, "The scale of the fraud makes it impossible for Walz to oversee a fair and honest investigation." And lawmakers outside of Minnesota and the Trump administration are also calling out Governor Walz for the fraud that happened under his watch. President Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "There is more fraud in California than there is in Minnesota, if that's even possible. When you add in election fraud, then they are tied for first, 2 crooked governors, 2 crooked states."
This is a top priority for the administration. The Department of Justice, as we speak, is continuing to execute search warrants and subpoenas. People will be in handcuffs as a result of the fraud that Governor Walz has allowed to occur for many, many years.
We're borrowing $1 trillion a year that we don't have, and we shouldn't be giving that money to foreigners. We've focused for years on illegal immigrants and the damage they do to the country. But the fact of the matter is, these aren't the legal immigrants of 100 years ago who came to America for freedom and opportunity. Now we're faced with immigrants like these folks from Somalia who just came here to see how much free stuff they can get, whether it's legal or scam. I think we need to cut off all welfare for all immigrants, Americans only.
The Trump administration also paused funding for all child care services in Minnesota until recipients can verify their identity. The National News Desk, Christine Frizzell, continues our coverage.
The Trump administration ending 2025 in a similar way to how it started the year, making major cuts to funding, at least temporarily, across the state of Minnesota. As investigations into rampant fraud are carried out, a top official with the Department of Health and Human Services announced all child care payments to the state would be frozen. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz slamming the move, accusing President Trump of politicizing the issue to defund programs that help Minnesotans. HHS, though, taking it even further, announcing new rules for the entire country.
Starting today, we require a justification receipt or photo evidence before we make a payment.
The Justice Department executing search warrants and subpoenas. The Department of Labor investigating the unemployment insurance program. The U.S. Department of Agriculture continuing its pursuit of names and addresses of those who receive SNAP benefits. And the Department of Homeland Security now has hundreds of agents on the ground conducting door-to-door investigations.
One thing now the Homeland Security investigation special agents are looking into is just that you said, that money trail of where this money is going to foreign aid. Obviously look at any type of links to any criminal activity, obviously terrorism activity.
The Department of Treasury announced 4 weeks ago it was investigating whether any of the money received had been sent to the Somali terror group Al-Shabaab. As questions mount over taxpayer-funded businesses, including daycare centers, accused in this viral video of receiving millions, but not actually operating.
All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center.
One of the daycare centers featured says kids were inside the day Nick Shirley came, but he was not allowed in because he was in a large group of people in masks.
That's
sharing
right.
this surveillance video with local affiliate WCCO.
According to the timestamps in the videos, this woman takes a young child into the center at around 9 a.m. that day. About 3 hours before Shirley arrives.
I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
And the Trump administration is coming to the defense of that YouTuber and journalist Nick Shirley, who posted that viral video about fraud in Minnesota. Political reporter Josh Gerstein faced backlash after posting on X, quote, "At some point, the amateur effort to knock on doors of home daycares intersects with robust stand your ground laws." Well, ICE has responded, writing, quote, "You would think a senior legal affairs reporter for Politico would know better than to tweet something inciting violence against federal agents." Nick Shirley himself wrote this, quote, "Mainstream media is more mad at me than they are at the fact that billions of your dollars are being used for fraudulent business. I am not an enemy of the people. They are. I'm with you. They are against you." Now, meanwhile, Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown is getting called out for accusing journalists of harassment for investigating fraud at questionable daycares. Justice Department Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon wrote, "Any state official who chills or threatens to chill a journalist's First Amendment rights will have some explaining to do."
All right, let's get back to it. To think that fat.
I'm sorry, Glenn.
Died over this.
Time's expired on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Chair recognizes, who's next? Ms. Simon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a January 6, 2026 article from the New York Times, Health Department to freeze $10 billion in funding to 5 Democratic states.
Without objection to order.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate us having this conversation, and I do apologize to our witnesses. Being in the last briefing took us out of this space, but you coming here to provide us some opportunity to discuss this is important, because I think it is true. We have to recognize that fraud is fraud and theft is theft. And anybody, and I say anyone, who takes away food out of the mouths of children, who denies child care to women,
Here we go.
particularly
Here comes the
young women who are going to school and working and doing everything right, who need a little hand up. I don't know who in here has had to walk their baby to childcare and go to school full time and work full time as a young mom. I know I did. And I know that I received, but 27 years ago, child care stipend. So we can be mad at the criminals in every state, including your state, who took resources from children. But I also want to go back to the unanimous consent that I just talked about. I think we don't have to go too far back, maybe 2 days, to recognize that the President of the United States and the administration is halting billions of dollars now, billions of dollars to child care providers and centers around this country. In fact, I have a story that we just received in my office. We heard today that there needs to be accountability. But what about accountability to a young woman that we talked to today in our office who was told by her child care center, and she is going to school full time at the local community college, that the President of the United States will be halting all funding, and within 6 weeks, she may not have an opportunity to continue her studies because guess what? There's a party in power that wants to punish the poor, not just in Democratic states, but all over the country. The reducing of SNAP benefits, the shocking taking away of resources from sick children, the halting, and I'll say it again, the stopping of clinical trials for sick babies. What we will do as Democrats is acknowledge that fraud is fraud. What we will not do is allow a conversation to go on to problematize immigrants in this country writ large. Can you imagine a society where we took the wrong of a small few and relegated that wrong to a whole community? Well, that's what we're doing here today, not just in Minnesota, but now accusing thousands and thousands of childcare providers all over the country before they get their day in court, proposing that they, in fact, shouldn't be taking care of kids across the country. I think it's shocking. This story that I want to end my quick testimony with, Nancy Harvey, she's a childcare provider in Oakland, California, where I represent a beautiful constituency. She's in my congressional district. Nancy has been a long-term child care provider, an advocate for early care and education for our babies.
Okay, and your point is what?
No matter who their parents vote for. Services that we know that are critical for every child, every child.
And your point is
Collective
what?
punishment is what the folks across the aisle want to do. We know it's wrong, it's reckless, and the Trump administration, we believe, must immediately reverse course so that families have access to vital federal funds that they are entitled to. Because you have a party that says they want everyone to work in this country.
Yeah, and?
You want everyone to do their fair share. And yet, because we are so angry at a small few folks who, in fact, broke the law, that we want to create a collective punishment for all poor people, working families who are trying to do their best. I don't have any questions because they have been answered. This is a politic of cruelty. This is a politic of anti-family. This is a politic of anti-poverty. And for someone who grew up in poverty, I
And
know
has
how
an
it feels
impoverished
when you
mentality.
wait and wait and wait to just get a chance to do better. And folks who've never met you, talk to you, believe in you or love you, are telling you you are not worth it. That is what this administration is doing to millions of children because of this halting of funding. And I yield back.
Good performance. That was a good performance. That was such a good performance. Yay. Yay. Somebody give her a bronze star. Because, you know, the hell are you talking about, lady? Everybody is getting all of the funding is being frozen until they deal with the fraud. Don't blame the president. Blame your governors. Blame the governors. Blame the governors. They're the ones in charge of the state purse strings.
So many people on this committee have already articulated nobody
she admitted it.
believes that rooting out fraud and waste and abuse is not a top priority of this committee.
I can't find my
our
violin
caucus,
music.
of their conference. It is. If you're on this committee, it is the top charge that we all undertake incredibly seriously. But I think, like so many things with the modern Republican Party, it's like you're skulking right around the edge of things, but
Like what?
too often. Your bigotry, the Republican Party's own bigotry, is imprisoning them and keeping them from ever actually doing something that helps, not harms the American people. And this is another one of those instances, right? When it's a person of color, if it's 2 or 3, it's a pattern, and the entire community must be indicted. But if it's 100 Republicans, it's just not that.
So not the case anymore. I mean, we saw what happened right earlier. Like, hey, let's bring in the AG of Arizona, who's a Democrat. Let's bring them in, and you see how no, we can't do that. Well, how about we bring in Pam Bondi? You know, one big circle jerk. When they said everybody can get it, and now this is what's funny. Now, this chick right here, what she just said. So, are Black people the face of welfare or not? Because, you know, I mean, I remember during the 90s, 2000s, whatnot, how they were saying there are more white people on welfare than Black. So now all of a sudden in this situation now, Black people are the face of welfare? Are you saying that? Yeah, you are. I mean, I get it. We're at the very bottom of the economic ladder, but there are more foreigners, and foreigners just happen to be non-white who are on welfare than there are white Americans. And they're committing fraud. So she's going with the Somalian, you're racist excuse. You're racist if you don't let us steal taxpayer funds. You're racist. You should give us this money or else you're racist. This is her defense, by the way.
Neither here nor there, because it's important. That's why we have routinely held hearings where we actually go over with the Government Accountability Office their high-risk list. We take it seriously. But the tone of this hearing seems to be a hypocritical witch hunt. It's hard to take it as anything but that, rather than an actual oversight effort. Our federal government currently has the tools to catch and prevent waste, fraud, and abuse. It's how the alleged fraud in Minnesota was caught by the Biden administration in the first place.
And
Mr. Blue, as a former
about it.
federal prosecutor, you're familiar with some of the tools that we have, correct?
Yes.
Just briefly, could you please verify the following tools for me? Yes or no? Does the Government Accountability Office work to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse?
Yes.
Do inspectors generals work towards these goals?
Absolutely.
What about the Council of the Inspectors General on integrity and efficiency?
Yes.
Are whistleblowers important to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse?
Absolutely.
Has the Trump administration helped or hurt these tools?
Certainly heard it by disbanding the Council for Inspectors General and then ultimately firing 19.
They were corrupt.
Thank you. That's right. Again and again.
They were
Trump
corrupt.
has attacked the oversight mechanisms within the federal government. He illegally fired 17 inspectors,
He didn't illegally
general, and other
fire
key
anybody.
personnel. He goes after whistleblowers and he tries to roll back their protections. He routinely ignores the rampant corruption within his own administration. Republicans have turned a blind eye to all of this. They have held no hearings on these actions. And this hearing today isn't even about fraud generally within the federal benefits system, which we would welcome. Republicans have cherry-picked a blue state and an immigrant population, vulnerable, to demonize. To be clear, Minnesota is not the only state with a fraud problem.
Yeah, we know. This is exactly why they, as you heard Van say, special attorney general, special prosecutor that's going to go through all 50 states.
To truly tackle waste, fraud, and abuse, we need to approach the issue with a scalpel, not a mallet. Discovering that people are committing fraud in the federal program does not mean we should smash the whole thing and end it. It means its oversight mechanisms need to be improved. That's why it's so disappointing to see that the Minnesota House Fraud Prevention Committee that our witness, the Honorable Kristen Robbins, chairs, has issued no reports on these uncovered schemes. It hasn't advanced any legislation to address the issue or even shared whistleblower reports with their Democratic colleagues. They've just held a bunch of hearings and generated headlines, something our committee is all too familiar with.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. This is why we're here. Hello, McFly. Hello. By the way, just to show you how, just to show you how ignorant Democrats are, especially this chick right here. You shut it all down, and then you make people reapply with evidence that they're actually who they say they are. File your paperwork. File your paperwork, and we'll see if you are who you say you are. And if you are, then we'll cut it back on specifically for you. It's no longer going to be governed by the state. It's going to be governed by the federal government directly. Did she miss that part?
This hearing is not an effort by Republicans to improve social service programs. It's an excuse to end them and to punish Democratic-led states. This has always been the plan. It's why a Republican's so-called big, beautiful bill is estimated to cut more than $1 trillion from Medicaid and CHIP benefits and cut SNAP for 40 million people. The very children or folks with disabilities who were mentioned in the opening statements.
You mean the illegals?
Trump has also already taken advantage of the situation in Minnesota. After a YouTuber harassed and posted unsubstantiated claims of fraud against child care centers, HHS froze child care funding to Minnesota, which would affect more than 23,000 children. Just yesterday, Trump also froze approximately $10 billion in funding for programs supporting child care, social services, grants, and cash assistance in not only Minnesota, but in other Democratic-led states of California, Colorado, New York, and Illinois. No matter what party we're elected to, we represent the people of our district, Democrat or Republican. We represent as the federal government, all people of all states, irrespective of how they voted. That's the charge that I took, and I would like and hope that you all would do the same. When so many of these social service programs are being gutted and defunded, fraud becomes even more harmful, as that means even less money is going to people who need it. People need these programs.
She black-splaining is what she's doing. You know, she's black-splaining.
This situation should be an opportunity to take a deep look at the programs and improve their oversight abilities, not an excuse to cut them entirely. If we care about the most vulnerable, if we care about the most marginalized, this is an opportunity to do so. And I welcome us to actually do that one day.
You can tell she don't do her homework. They just said that that's how they were doing it. They're streamlining the whole process.
Thanks, I yield back.
Ms. Lee, the IGs are hired to identify fraud. They haven't identified fraud. The IGs have failed. But anyway.
You all have failed.
Whatever, right.
You all continue to fail. We've done nothing. You have the gavel, Mr. Comer. We barely do hearings on anything that actually affects change. You have power here, and yet you don't do anything. Yes, he actually initiated this, sir, but thank you so much for your opinion.
Oh my God. You know, I swear to God, man, just kick. I swear, man, black Democrats are very embarrassing. They are very embarrassing. She talking to him like that's her boyfriend. or ex-boyfriend or some Negro in the street. He just sat up there and explained to her the reason why these people got fired is because they was covering for the fraud. They weren't doing their job. They weren't doing that. Y'all making me go back on my promises. They weren't doing their job, so they got fired. And they're getting replaced with people who are actually doing their jobs. Because the biggest problem with fraud is that you had a lot of state attorney generals that were turning a blind eye and collecting cash envelopes, kickbacks and whatnot, for turning those blind eyes. So no, they weren't illegally fired. They were fired legally. Did they get their jobs back? Yeah, they went to court, right? They sued to get their jobs back, right? What happened with the court cases? Yeah, their firings were upheld, right? Okay.
You have failed.
I yield it back.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry from Pennsylvania for 5 minutes.
Thank the chair.
Perfect ending. Okay, here we go. That was funny. Come on, next video. What is going
Filed
on?
complaint against Walz over fraud allegations. Minnesota adds Medicaid fraud verification amid alleged $9 billion loss. Minnesota's Somali fraudsters paid for rich lifestyles with stolen money. What investigators still haven't asked about Minnesota's fraud. I hope to ask that. Trump deploys 2,000 federal agents to Minnesota. Venezuela's been dealt with. Somali scammers should be next. Beyond parody, Craigslist ad from a daycare center in Minneapolis seeks to hire 20 child actors. Dr. Oz orders full-scale federal audit of Minnesota Medicaid. Did you miss a story about alleged Medicaid fraud from a Somali-run health services provider in Maine? A YouTuber's follow-up video on Minnesota fraud is just as wild. HHS to close Biden-era loophole that lets states pay child care providers without counting attendance.
Thank you.
Yield back.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognize Ms. Jasmine Crockett from Texas.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Blackface,
Chair,
y'all.
and
Blackface,
for every witness that is here. Thank you so much for your time and your
That's some
attention.
video.
I just have one quick question. I have not been here the entire hearing, but I don't think.
Oh, okay. How much y'all want to bet she about to say something irrelevant and useless and divisive and silly? How much y'all want to bet? Because keep in mind, we're watching this virgin eyes and ears. That's how I roll here. So let's see. Let's see.
This question has been posed for each of you, and we can start at the far end. Do you believe that all Somalis are engaged in fraud?
I do not, and I'd like
to. Just yes or no. Next.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. We have good Somali people in our state.
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you so much. I just want to make sure I level set because it seems like we want to continue to, especially as we just heard those particular articles entered into the record, we want to continue to just make it seem as if you are Somali, then somehow you are a fraudster. And this administration has decided that it wants a target on their backs. And so when my colleague, Ms. Randall, decided that she wanted to talk about the threats that are being made towards various Somali people, the reason she brought it up is because this particular side of the aisle has a tendency of, if one person does something bad, especially if they are an immigrant, then we are going to cast aside that entire community.
Isn't these the people that, said MAGA, all MAGA is garbage and all Republicans, I mean, especially coming out of her mouth, all Republicans are racist? Did she say that? Or all white people are racist in so many words? Has she not said that? Has she not used the word all when describing anybody that's not a Democrat? I mean, the hypocrisy of this low IQ blackfacer is just ridiculous.
So I wanted to level set, and I appreciate your honesty because that's something that we very rarely get from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. In fact, if we want to talk about fraud, I got a lot of fraud that we're going to talk about because we're going to get into this, but I am very curious to hear. Let me ask you, Mr. Ballou, are you aware of allegations that $50,000 in taxpayer dollars have been given to someone that is currently sitting in this administration by the name of Tom Homan? Are you aware Okay, that's a yes.
I am.
Okay. And last I checked, and correct me if I'm wrong if you have different information, but he was given that $50,000 in exchange for being able to provide contracts and kickbacks to people as soon as Trump was going to get into office. The DOJ was actually investigating this, but as soon as Trump got into office, last I checked, he actually said, go ahead and throw away that case.
So it was a Department of Justice investigation, and he accepted the money from an undercover FBI agent in cash.
Are you aware as to whether or not we ever got that $50,000 back?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Are you aware as to whether or not this committee has decided to investigate that?
I'm not.
Are you aware as to whether or not any committee in Congress has decided to investigate the fact that we know that he took $50,000 from an undercover officer, and yet we still don't have that money, nor does he have any charges?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's get into
See,
it.
what about
We're through the most corrupt presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got...
First and foremost, that ballroom is being paid for out of his own pocket and through private donations. It's not taxpayer funds that are paying for that ballroom. I mean, I don't even know why she brought that up. I no wonder her law firm, the law firm that she opened before they decided to fund her through Act Blue with stolen money, foreign aid money. No wonder in 2 years it turned a profit in 2 years now of $26,000 in 2 years. In 2 years, she was a BLM lawyer down there in Texas. If you got arrested for violent protesting, she chased the ambulance with her business card. Call me. Horrible lawyer. This is her argument. Her argument is whataboutisms. If you really listen to her argument, when she makes an argument, especially in Congress, it's always a whataboutism that has absolutely nothing to do with the subject matter.
We're living through the most corrupt presidential administration in American history, a $300 million ballroom, a $230 million payout from the Department of Justice because the president got his feelings hurt because he had to be investigated for being a criminal.
Oh, yeah, because they failed. Because it come to find out that he was being railroaded. Yeah, I mean, Fani Willis just lost her case down here in Georgia and was found liable for paying. She lost her case. She's found liable. She has to pay back the money. The stolen government funds, she has to pay that back. That her and Nathan Wade was going on all them trips with and everything. Yeah, she got to pay that back with interest. And Trump and all of those other people that they threw in jail talking about election interference. Yeah, they can now sue her, Fulton County, for their attorney's fees. You think they're not?
Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent at Trump-owned properties around the country, Trump-branded wine being sold at the Coast Guard exchanges, American taxpayer dollars being spent on DHS propaganda ads on Truth Social.
Yeah, you can do that. That's legal. You can sell wine. You don't have to buy it. And if taxpayer... Oh, God, this woman. You see what I'm saying? A bunch of whataboutisms that make no sense.
Awarding federal contracts to corporations in exchange for campaign contributions. Kash Patel flew his girlfriend around the country on a multi-million-dollar jet that taxpayers paid for. Kristi Noem gave companies she's affiliated with hundreds of millions of tax dollars, then went out and spent another $200 million on 2 private jets for her travel. For 12 months, this administration has been...
She's the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Those contracts were awarded to people who created detention centers. What are you talking about?
Taking billions of taxpayer dollars from American people and have been giving it away to their own companies in the form of tax cuts, government contracts, or other government funded subsidies.
That's
so
how it
Congress
works.
has a role in getting rid of fraud. I will admit that in any federally funded government program. However,
That's how it works.
I think the fraud that the American people are concerned about is that
That's how it works. It's called outsourcing. That's how it works.
the Republicans are taking away Americans' health care so that ultra billionaires can get more tax cuts. The real fraud is the dehumanization and demonization.
Wait, she had to pay that money back. They took the money. She never did get that $3 billion. She never did get that $3 billion. In fact, they wound up suing her. She got fined, her charity, and they bankrupted her charity. They hit her with a $300,000 fine, which was more than they had in the coffers, and it's now bankrupt. She no longer has a charity. And yes, they didn't even use taxpayer money. Yeah, she's done. Stacey Abrams is done.
Of the working class Americans and immigrants to distract folks away from corporate socialism that's happening because of the Republicans. So this is truly the definition of throwing away the baby with the bathwater.
What are you talking
about? The
about?
Republican philosophy is that if the cost of living for the average American increases, they're on their own. But if the cost of doing business increases for the wealthiest people on earth, well, then it's the government job to bail them out. But I want to get to my last question because
Okay, first and foremost, the cost of living is going down. Secondly, when you give corporations tax breaks, the way Trump has set it up as far as with corporate tax breaks, it means you have to create jobs. It's the actual trickle-down effect. Not the one Ronald Reagan was using. That was garbage. But this one is 100% tied to creating jobs. Creating jobs. You don't create a job, you don't get a tax break. You're not just getting a tax break simply because you exist. Oh, you sell chandeliers. We're gonna give you $1 million tax break simply because you sell chandeliers. No, you get the $1 million tax break if you open more stores and hire more employees. You got to have this amount of employees in order to get this $1 million tax break. So how you want to play it? Chandelier store? What is she talking about?
Baloo, I got to give you a chance. He's been issuing pardons for numerous people who have defrauded the American people. And Republicans on this committee, yeah, just as quiet as the room just got, right? So, Mr. Baloo, talk to me about how the Trump administration has welcomed fraud across government by purging DOJ attorneys and shuttering ethics office across the federal government.
Well, one of the things that's been a common theme in this discussion so far is potential government employee involvement in some of these schemes. That hasn't been proven yet, but it does seem to be alleged. The concern that I have is the office that would prosecute that in the Department of Justice, the Public Integrity Section, has been largely defunded and decimated.
Thank you so much. And my time has expired, but I do have some UCs, Mr. Chairman.
You want to do them now?
I do.
Okay.
The first one is from Truth Out. Trump grants clemency to executive who led $205 million Medicare fraud scheme.
Without objection to order.
The next one is Trump commutes sentence of Dr. Solomon Melgen, eye doctor, found guilty of Medicare fraud.
Without objection to order.
The next one, healthcare fraudster Philip Esfermaze is latest Trump clemency recipient to be arrested. He defrauded more than $1 billion from Medicare.
Without objection to order.
Trump pardons nursing home owner and supporter convicted of $7 million in tax evasion.
Without objection to order.
Trump
and
pardons,
we'll want all that stuff to put in the record. So
I will. I got you. Trump pardons cost victims and taxpayers $1.3 billion. House Judiciary Committee Democrats review says.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair now.
See, a bunch of useless BS. Okay, we're done with her. I just had to I saw her, she was in the clip. I was like, let me throw this in here because I know she's going to say
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Robbins and Mr. Hudson, Ms. Rarick, you're all members of the Minnesota State Legislature. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And
Nothing but
Ms.
what about
Robbins,
it?
you're the chair of the Fraud Prevention Oversight Committee. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Hudson and Ms. Rarick, you're members of that committee as well, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
All right. So you three collectively, America should clearly understand you have an excellent perspective what's going on inside Minnesota. in specifically regards to the fraud that we are investigating and discussing today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we have a particular community, a Somali community in Minnesota that has stunning percentages are participating in government programs where they're drawing a lot of money, big money. This has been discussed and revealed and reported, and it's factual. You have a tremendous amount of criminal fraud taking place that one of my colleagues, the gentleman from the other side of the aisle, mentioned transparency. I would argue that from a regular American's perspective, it's quite transparent that something criminal is going on when you have billions of dollars disappearing into child care centers with no children in them, and you have a tremendous transfer of wealth into a relatively small immigrant community. You have $9 billion, that's $9,000 million missing in the last few years. It's alleged to be fraudulently stolen. They're sending money, the Somali community in Minnesota sending money, big money, overseas. They're contributing money, big money, to Democrat candidates and elected officials. The Democratic political machine in Minnesota has benefited from this criminal network of Somali immigrants who have systematically stolen billions of dollars of federal charitable money, essentially. The good lady, my colleague, clarified this is money designed for poor folk that need a hand up.
Get to your point, bro.
And we generally want that to happen in America in an effective manner. So this is the scenario that we are looking into today. Have I summed it up fairly well, Ms. Robbins?
Yes, sir. And I would just like to add.
Before you add, Mr. Hudson, is this an effective summary, sir?
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you, Ms. Rarick.
Yes.
Thank you. So from the perspective of members of the Fraud Investigative Committee of the Minnesota State Legislature, we have a large criminal network with high percentages of participation in that criminal network from the Somali community in Minnesota. That community has tremendous influence within the political arena, specifically within the Democrat political arena in Minnesota. The Democrat political machine has been covering for this criminal network. And here we go to Governor Walz's involvement here, which is shocking to me, quite frankly, because I've been friendly with Governor Walz for many years. I served with him here. But can you discuss for me the governor's administration's involvement in intimidation and oppression and retaliation against whistleblowers? Ms. Robbins, have you had conversations with whistleblowers who have been treated like that by the Walz administration?
Yes, I have.
And what can you tell us about that without naming the person or revealing stuff that's secret? Tell us how that retaliation would happen.
So it happens in a variety of ways. They are demoted or reassigned, or they are told that they could lose their job and then their house or their pension or their retirement benefits or not qualify for unemployment. So
that's very serious. That's very serious allegation. I would say that's criminal retaliation. Mr. Hudson and Ms. Rarick, have you seen similar?
I would defer to Representative Rarick.
Yes. So Representative Robbins and once in a while Representative Hudson have had multiple conversations with whistleblowers, and that is exactly what they said to us, especially in a face-to-face meeting in St. Paul. That is exactly
unbelievable. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired, but this leans into the criminal spectrum, sir. I yield.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Walkinshaw from Virginia.
I think I was here first.
They told me Walkinshaw.
I'm happy to defer.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Min?
I'm just doing what the Democrat staff says. Walking Charles next.
All right.
I mean, it was a 6-hour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
I've already recognized Mr. Burleson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. And actually, I'd like to remind the committee that this party, this side of the aisle, has dedicated tremendous resources to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. In fact, the chairman set up a committee called Doge that the other side of the aisle demonized and criticized in our efforts, in which we had multiple hearings to identify waste, fraud, and abuse throughout all of the government agencies. And so I applaud the chairman and this side for the work that we've been doing. But sadly, Minnesota has become an example because of the extent of the waste and the fraud. I have to ask, it must be embarrassing for the citizens of Minnesota, Chairman Robbins.
They're not embarrassed.
So I'm not embarrassed to be from Minnesota, but I am frustrated and angry about the theft of taxpayer money.
The citizens of Minnesota clearly aren't upset. They're not upset. They actually approve of the fraud. Let's be honest. You have yet to see anybody from Minnesota get on camera and say, yeah, this is crazy. If anything, whenever you had a Somalian and a white woman in one press conference, both say that fraud is wrong, or they said the word fraud, and they seem like, oops, I wasn't supposed to say that. I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh no, I wasn't supposed to say fraud is bad. Oh no. It's like their brains immediately short-circuited.
I have family that live in Minnesota. It's a wonderful state, and I know that they are angry, that they're very frustrated. So I think that we talk about the amount of money that's being wasted, $9 billion. That seems like an abstract amount, but let's break that down. $9 billion stolen from less than 6 million citizens of Minnesota, correct? That's per individual. Imagine, right? Every citizen of Minnesota, your bank account, suddenly someone took $1,500 out of your bank account. Every taxpayer, there's around 3 million citizens or taxpayers in Minnesota. Every taxpayer just had $3,000 stolen from their bank account. How does that feel to the citizen of Minnesota?
Minnesotans are so frustrated because not only have we had that money stolen from us, but we had an $18 billion surplus that Tim Walz spent and then raised our taxes $11 billion and left us with a $6 billion deficit. So we've had the fiscal mismanagement on top of the fraud, and Minnesotans are completely fed up.
In Missouri, there's also an opportunity cost to all that money. So in Missouri, we just greenlit a project to add more lanes to I-70, which runs from one end of the state to the other, and it was less than $3 billion. You could imagine people in Minnesota could enjoy adding additional lanes on interstates, on 3 of your interstates, I-35, I-90, 94, I-90. Don't you think the people of Minnesota would love to have wider lane or more lanes added to their highway infrastructure?
They absolutely would. But even if we stayed in the social service realm, there was $104 million in 1 year that was fraudulent in the housing stabilization service. If we could have taken that $104 million and put it into supportive housing, we would have done a lot to solve the homelessness problem. So every time these dollars are fraudulently stolen, it is a huge opportunity cost for Minnesotans.
Absolutely. And you've been sounding the alarm for quite some time. Why is it taken until 2025 for these to fully come to light?
Leadership.
The Fraud Prevention and State Oversight Committee was formed in 2025 once we had a tie in the House.
So when the Republican took majority, you were able to actually root out the waste, fraud, and abuse in Minnesota, which is why we now know about it.
Yes, we're in a tie technically, but we were able to negotiate this as part of the power sharing agreement.
I seek unanimous consent, Mr. Chairman, to enter into the record a article from the New York Post, former Homeland Security agent claims prosecutors ignored Minnesota daycare fraud cases. They just evaporated.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. So there's been investigations been going on for some time. I understand you don't report them or have really kind of bypassed the state agencies. You report directly to the federal government. Can you elaborate on why that is? It's pretty obvious why, but.
So when my staff, we have a very small staff. We have one researcher on our committee, and then we as members also do a lot of our own research. And when we get an investigation that is credible, we do as much research as we can. But as I said earlier, we don't have access to bank records, health records, or the state payment system. And so based on that, when we get something that's credible, we turn it over to the Office of Legislative Auditor and to the U.S. Attorney's Office. I have been accused of hiding whistleblower data from the department, but when the department comes to hearings, we provide documents every time. I flagged 72 child care centers. We've given them lists of all of the housing, multiple addresses where there's more than 5 providers, sometimes up to 22 providers at the same address. They've done nothing with it. But what I don't give them is the whistleblower information, because I'm protecting our whistleblowers in Minnesota. They finally are stepping up, and I have their back.
Good for you, and I appreciate you for doing that. And then finally, with that, I'll end. I have more articles to submit for the record, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want to submit them now, or are you going to submit them? Okay, go proceed.
Okay, one is an article produced. It was about child care welfare fraud.
Without objection, to ordered.
A report produced by the Office of Legislative Auditor of Minnesota, Child Care Assistance Programs Assessment of Fraud Allegations.
Without objection, to ordered.
And then from the Minnesota House Research Group, the Child Care Assistance Programs and the Fraud Within.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Frost from Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is very important that we eliminate fraud in our social programs, and I'm glad that Governor Walz has taken real concrete steps in Minnesota to combat fraud, like signing legislation to strengthen states' agencies' ability to detect, prevent, and prosecute fraud.
Yes, it's
recognizes Majority Whip from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, for holding this important hearing. As I said on Monday, good riddance to Governor Walz, but he cannot escape accountability for the estimated $9 billion in fraud. How did this happen? And where the hell has the Twin Cities media been? The Star Tribune is complicit. They have had this story for years, if you just heard, and they've refused to report anything on it. In fact, they continue to try and cover up. Our Minnesota Republican colleagues have demanded answers and accountability for years, but have seen nothing from Walz, his administration, our Democrat colleagues like Tina Smith, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, and Angie Craig, or the worthless Star Tribune. Thank God for President Donald J. Trump for finally bringing attention to this issue. Representative Rarick, I'm going to begin with you. You've been working on this issue for years. You've spoken to the whistleblowers personally. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have an understanding that 1,000 whistleblowers running an account on X have come forward to expose fraud in Minnesota state agencies, and they have been entirely ignored by Tim Walz and have even been retaliated against. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Even this morning, I got another message.
Well, in your experience, are their claims credible or are they politically motivated against Walz?
They're completely credible, not politically motivated.
In fact, many of these are Walz administration employees, correct?
They are actually Democrats as well.
Can you quickly give us one example of the retaliation these folks have been facing?
Yes, I can. In my opening statement, I mentioned that the most severe ones was that they would be fired with cause, so they couldn't have unemployment insurance, that they would be blacklisted from all state agencies, and I bet that it's also Hennepin County and Ramsey County, as you know, those are Democrat run, and much, much more.
Based on what you've learned, Representative, over the last several years, do you have any doubt that Governor Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
He absolutely knew that it was occurring.
Thank you. The Housing Stability Services Program was estimated to cost about $2.6 million per year, but before it was shut down last October, it was on track to run about $122 million in 2025. In fact, I think they sucked $161 million out of it from the point it started in 2020 until it was finally shut down. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. And Joe Thompson believes that 90% of that was fraud.
Yeah. The Quality Leering Center, as uncovered by Nick Shirley, received almost $10 million in funding. Is that accurate?
I believe it is.
There are more than 80 autism centers in Minnesota under investigation. Is that true?
I believe it is, yes.
It's clear that someone is criminally complicit. You can't just let this amount of money get out of your administration over a period of 7 years without knowing. There was a hearing in the state regarding the fraudulent housing stabilization program, but before that hearing, Governor Walz fired the official who was slated to testify so that they could not testify and expose what was happening under Governor Walz's watch. Has Governor Walz or Attorney General Ellison fired anyone else to your knowledge, Representative?
Not to my knowledge, and that was Eric Rumdahl, and his administration believes that he was not fired, but I say he was fired because it was too convenient.
Right. Representative Hudson, is it true that 90% of the individuals charged, regardless of what your colleague on the panel just said with his facts and figures, 90% of the individuals charged or indicted with the $250 million Feeding Our Future COVID fraud are of Somali descent?
I believe that to be correct.
Are you aware that in a 2021 video, Mr. Ellison promised that he would obstruct his own agencies in their investigation of Somali fraud?
I am very much aware of that.
It's no wonder that criminals in the Somali community felt they were free to steal taxpayer dollars. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Marion. Do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
Walz and Ellison were protecting fraudsters instead of investigating them, and it was purposeful. And it's no coincidence that this is occurring largely in the Somali community. Walz made a sanctuary state, Minnesota, a sanctuary state. He gave free health care, free college, and free licenses to illegals. And Walz looked the other way when Somali immigrants were stealing. Representative Robbins, do you have any doubt that Tim Walz knew about this fraud as it was occurring?
None whatsoever.
So all three of you have no doubt in your minds that Tim Walz knew about the $9 billion of fraud during his tenure as governor and did nothing about it. It looks like my time is about to expire. And I do want to say to all of you, on behalf of Minnesota, thank you for being here, and justice will be served. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Whip. Chair now recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And before I begin my remarks, I want to enter into the record an email shared by DHS whistleblowers. The email was written by a senior DHS official and sent to other DHS leaders. In the email, the DHS official talks about using military intelligence resources to track down whistleblowers' exact location. And this issue, and I believe this email was alluded to by Representative Rarick in her testimony.
Without objection to order.
Thank you so much. And I have one more, and I ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record an article titled "Minnesota Government Whistleblowers Claim They Were Electronically Surveilled, Had Promotions Denied," in the New York Post, dated January 3rd, 2026.
Without objection to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing us to wave on. This is an incredibly important issue in our state and across the country. And it's something that comes up all the time when we're out in the district. And so I thank all of the legislators for being here and for all of your work that you do in order to expose this and dig into it and really figure out what's going on. And I think it was Mr. Burlinson who asked if we were embarrassed, but I'm not embarrassed to be from Minnesota. What I am is really sad that this is happening, and this is what Minnesota is known for now. This horrible fraud, because there's wonderful things that Minnesota does have to offer. And so as a lifelong Minnesotan, it makes me sad that this is what we're having to talk about. And while some may want to downplay this fraud, I want to be clear. This is an explicit and egregious cover-up on the theft of taxpayer dollars. And hundreds of millions stolen from programs intended to help feed children, provide housing, provide childcare, even help individuals with autism. And we also have reports that some of this funding is going to terrorist organizations, like was mentioned earlier. Democrats have been in charge in Minnesota for years. I was in the Minnesota legislature, I know. And they specifically wrote and passed legislation that reduced oversight when handing out federal funds. Democrats seized on COVID in particular to yank back fraud protections, just so that they could hand out money as fast as possible. That was the whole thing. That was the mantra during COVID, is we've got to get it out fast. So we can't have all these regulations and checks and balances on them. Unfortunately, though, this problem isn't new, and it wasn't just from COVID in Minnesota. Whistleblowers report that they've been making reports for years. The Democrat leadership at the state level in Minnesota has been actively suppressing whistleblowers. And I think some of the testimony that you've all given today is pointing that out. And that's not an opinion. It is fact. It's fact. So I'm going to ask, maybe we're going to go over some of this a little once again, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that there's a clear answer. Representative Rarick, the tweet, where did my sign go? I have a sign.
Find the sign.
Maybe we don't. But there's an account that is working, that is, I believe, from the whistleblowers. And I just wanted to note, there we go. Thank you. This behind me is the account. Is it run by one whistleblower?
Madam Congressman, no, it actually is comprised of over 1,000 state employees across multiple state agencies.
So this is not just a couple of people. This is a lot of people bringing this to light. And were the whistleblowers ever made to feel unsafe on their attempts to report fraud?
Yes, absolutely. I can give you 2 quotes that they have in the 7-page document that was submitted for this committee hearing. 2 things that they said is, think about your home and what if you lose your job? So these are things said to whistleblowers. Second thing was, we need information about where your kids go to school and where their bus stops are.
And Representative Rarick, that's just incredible stuff. And I know you mentioned it before, but I do think it's worth repeating, because we had whistleblowers. This could have been happening, but there has been Democrat administration after Democrat administration, including Walz and the newer, they have not addressed these things. And they have not said, hey, whistleblowers, we believe you, and we're going to do something about it. And so that's the concern. And I just want to, I'm running low on time, but I wanted to just ask Representative Robbins, and I'm sorry, Mr. Hudson, but you've had some really good moments today. So I'll go to Representative Robbins. As chair of the committee, if these claims of retaliatory action are true, then it violates the law. So if these claims are true, then a state agency is violating our own state whistleblowers laws. Is that correct?
Sorry, so the whistleblower statute is for civil penalties. There is no criminal penalty for whistleblower retaliation in statute currently, but we are looking at that for the next session. But that's why when people say, why haven't these people who've retaliated against the whistleblowers been prosecuted? It's because there is no criminal penalty in statute.
Has there been anything by the Attorney General's office? And this is maybe a question that I'll ask if he's comes. Anything by the Attorney General's office that would deal with that?
No, we passed a law this session to expand whistleblower protection, because prior to this session, they could only report up through their supervisor or to the state attorney general. And when they did, they were either ghosted or they were retaliated against. So we expanded it. So now they can report to legislators and they can report to law enforcement. And that's how we got this just deluge of whistleblower reports, because now they have somewhere safe to report.
And you have been very indulgent. And I'll just say, after 15 years of Democrat administration in Minnesota, this massive fraud is coming to an end, because we are going to get to it. And I appreciate the work that you have done on your committee. And we will do whatever we can to continue to bring it to light and prosecute those folks involved. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I thank you very much for
your indulgence.
Thank you. Chair asks unanimous consent.
Who said that?
Who ran their mouth? Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Support it.
In
In addition to what has happened yesterday.
Young lady yields back. Young lady from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I know that my colleagues have talked about the situation in Minnesota, which is appalling on so many levels. But this isn't just happening in Minnesota. ICE and CBP are exceeding their jurisdiction all over this country.
How?
And they're doing it with almost no consequences.
How?
Even my Republican senator, Senator Tillis, has been asking for accountability for how ICE and CBP have been operating in North Carolina. They have been picking up U.S. citizens, literally making them feel like they've been kidnapped. I had a woman in my district who was just swept up. She had done everything right. She had work authorization. She came here as a child. She had an attorney. She ended up spending a month in detention before our government said, whoops, it's Christmas. She's been all over the news. Maybe we should let her out. Thank God she got out. But she should have never been picked up in the first place. And now, when our citizens are saying enough is enough, do what you said you were going to do. Go after violent criminals. We're all for that. Every single one of us is for going after people who have a violent criminal history, the repeat offenders that I know my colleague, Mr. Knott, talks about. But we are not here to assault our citizens. And we are not here to allow the federal government to violate the rights of people who are protesting or may just be trying to turn their car around. This committee should be about oversight. It should be about preventing and punishing crime, but it should also be about calling out federal agents who are using their authority and legal force improperly. We can do both at the same time, and our Constitution demands that we do both at the same time. And when this committee just decides to take one side and not admit when something is wrong, and I'm not here to say it's always the Republicans who do that. Sometimes Democrats do that too. But we need to come together and say when enough is enough. And it's only getting worse. It is getting worse. Because this committee doesn't exercise that kind of oversight, the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee has had to have her own hearings. At our last hearing, we had more than 20 members, not members of this committee, show up and talk about abuses of ICE and CBP. We haven't had one hearing on that in this official committee. We haven't had one.
Because it's just you. It's you Democrats whining. It's you Democrats whining and crying because you're losing your money.
Expression of even unpleasantness with that from the other side of the aisle. It is time that this committee does its job. I am so grateful that we actually have a ranking member who's not only doing her job, but the job of the whole committee. She is bringing this to light, and it has got to stop. And with that, I will yield my final minute to the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee.
Thank you, Ms. Ross, and thank you for your kind comments, and thank you for all of the people on this committee and beyond who have come to those.
You see the pattern. The Democrats want to whine and cry and moan and deflect, whereas the Republicans just want to get down to the issue.
Agents and this ICE agent in particular, there's still a federal investigation.
That's it. That's it. This is oh wait, no, I'm sorry. There's more. I'm sorry.
Happening on the ground. Does that mean that they are not looking into this ICE agent at all? They are just focused on the woman who was in the car? What is the investigation if the federal government has already determined that it's?
We saw this yesterday.
So what do you mean?
when you say investigation, do you mean investigation of the shooting yesterday or of the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis?
Yesterday.
Okay, look, DHS, as I understand it, has an investigation already ongoing. I know that other organs of our government are looking at this. So yes, there is certainly an investigation that's happening right now. But as part of the broader fraud investigation, a lot of what we're doing with the Department of Justice has already started. We've got over 1,500 subpoenas. We've got people this morning, actually, we're going door to door to actually knock on some of these fraudulent care centers, these fraudulent social services organizations to get to the bottom of what's going on there. So the investigation in some ways has already been ramping up into the anti-fraud element for at least a few weeks. What we're trying to do is supercharge it and make sure there's a designated person within the Department of Justice who completely controls that particular focus. Yeah.
Option. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
Turn your mic on, stupid.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you. We're here today in this hearing because there exists damning and overwhelming evidence of massive industrial scale fraud occurring in Minnesota right now, and it's been going on for years. This is a huge story, and while many want to ignore it, deflect from it, or be masters of obfuscation, which we have seen here today, this should be a page one, front and center, above the fold headline for media outlets across the country. But it's not. And I think it's very interesting. ABC, NBC, CBS, you can find 74 stories today run before you even get a hint of this scandal. This should be a headline. And unfortunately, it's a back page fine print. Still, as bad as the network's coverage, albeit, it's ludicrously abysmal, it's better than CNN. This very morning, CNN ran 51 stories on its website, including such riveting breaking news articles such as dogs that are trained to sniff mold, a flock of gay sheep, K-pop's newest release entitled Demon Hunters, inside glimpse of P. Diddy Combs' prison cell, and Chinese robots playing soccer. But nary a mention of the tens of billions of dollars of American taxpayer money that's been stolen from honest folks in America by scumbag thieves. This is the Oversight Committee. We should have one overriding emotion, whether it's Republican or Democrat. We should all be outraged that crooks and thieves and dirtbags are robbing the American people. So I was very curious to see how the Democrats would play today. Would they expose this fraud and be willing to work with us, or would they go to their playbook of Donald Trump bad? And when we were in Doge, it was Elon Musk and billionaires bad. And they haven't really disappointed. January 6th as well has been mentioned. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. The ranking member's opening comments even bizarrely talked about presidential pardons. And he railed against POTUS. It's nothing to do with the matter at hand. But for the record, Joe Biden issued 250% more pardons and commutations than Donald Trump. In fact, 2,545 more. Again, back to the matter. This money's been stolen systemically by a gang of thieves, while the very people charged with the oversight, namely the Walz administration, have been complicit. They've looked the other way. And the Democrats didn't disappoint either with ists, isms, and phobes, quotes like bigotry and hatred, and we're hypocritical witch hunt. And then they were taking a hero, Nick Shirley, trying to make him a villain. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into the record an article, "It's Not Racist to Notice Somali Fraud."
Without objection to ordered.
98 defendants that have been charged thus far in this case, and I think it'll end up being hundreds, 85 of them happen to be of Somalian descent. It's just a fact, despite how unfortunate and inconvenient these truths may be to leftists. The Assistant U.S. Attorney, Joe Thompson, thinks that this fraud can equivalent to maybe $9 billion. The entire federal budget of the country Somalia is $1.2 billion. Medicaid fraud does exist in all 50 states, but uncovering it aggressively clearly is not a blue state priority. If you talk to any expert, I was in the state legislature for 8 years, they will tell you objectively that no matter where it is, about 10 to 20% of all Medicaid spending is fraudulent. In the state of New York, they spent $96 billion. So did they recover in fraud 9.6 billion, 960 million? No, it was a pittance. It was 0.06% was recovered. In the state of Minnesota, 18 billion. It was 0.08% recovered. Representative Robbins and the other reps, thank you for coming. Thank you for your courage. You know you're going to be, smeared, and I'm not going to ask you, raise your hand. We're going to have a conversation, okay? When Ms. Robbins, Representative Robbins, when you first uncovered this tectonic fraud, what was the reaction and actions taken by the Walz administration or Democratic colleagues? Was it working hand in hand to create synergy and offer full support and help to unmask this fraud? Or did you face significant headwinds and fierce pushback to the point of opposition?
Throughout our hearings, they would either deny or deflect or say, oh, they've handled it, or they're new on the job and they don't know. So those were the answers in the tenor of our hearing. I provided documents to them outlining, as I said, in February, of 72 child care centers I thought they should look at. They haven't done it. I've sent 6 FOIA requests or data requests that have not been responded to. So they have not been good partners in rooting this out.
So block votes in Minnesota in 2016, it was so close that I think Hillary Clinton won the state by about 44,000 votes. But if you have block 50,000 you can rely on in Minneapolis, that's rather helpful to win an election in Minnesota. But you know what, Mr. Chairman? Our Democratic colleagues, whether they be in Minnesota or here on this Oversight Committee, they'll eventually learn.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Bell from Missouri.
Oh, these people got jokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, ranking member, and our witnesses for being here today. I believe in protecting our social services and recognize the need.
And I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. Before we begin, I have a letter to submit for the record titled Collective Request for Congressional Oversight, Systematic Retaliation and Governance Failure at the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Chairman, this letter was written by the whistleblowers and has been provided to the committee. I want to submit that for the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Ms. Rarick, first of all, thank you for your service to the state of Minnesota. I want to refer back to your commentary about a meeting where the lieutenant governor of the state of Minnesota, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, came and admonished these whistleblowers. Can you go into more detail about what was said in this meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. So I don't have any more detail other than what I read into the record. Unfortunately, it was obviously a public meeting and there were hundreds of DHS employees, so Department of Human Services employees there. It was a story that's been reported multiple times on the X page, but I don't have any more details than that, other than the fact that that wasn't the only time that she retaliated.
Do you think that the lieutenant governor was operating outside of the purview of Governor Walz?
So it's interesting, the timing, and it was before he ran as the vice president. And so she was completely almost tied at the hip with Governor Walz at that time in history.
I think it's important for people to understand that in virtually every state in the country, the lieutenant governor is essentially chosen by the governor. And so lieutenant governors typically do not operate outside of the purview of the governor. It's kind of their job to, play QB2, if you will, to the governor. So would it be clear to state that the lieutenant governor's comments trying to railroad whistleblowers, trying to demean whistleblowers and discourage whistleblowers was at the directive of Governor Walz?
You can definitely assume that because, like I said, at that moment in time, up until the point where the governor ran for VP, she was seen at literally every press conference. She was in all the meetings. They were tied at the hip. They were always together. So if she was saying it, he had approved it. I'm certain of it.
Well, I guess you could say she's kind of a knucklehead too. Moving on, the list of programs in the fraud in Minnesota are rampant. You have the Child Care Assistance Program. You have the Feeding Our Future. You have the Housing Stabilization Services. You have the Early Intensive Development and Behavioral Intervention. You have Integrated Community Supports. Ms. Robbins, you're the chair of the investigative committee. The depth of fraud that you have seen, were there controls in place in the state of Minnesota that could have prevented this fraud? And were these controls ignored by the Walz administration and by the Department of Human Services?
Absolutely. So we have many whistleblower reports talking about how DHS undermined ability to strengthen internal controls. So, for example, there was an effort for the Child Care Assistance Program. They have a clear and convincing evidence standard to disqualify someone from being a provider, where all the other programs are a lower standard, preponderance of the evidence. There was an effort to make this a lower standard so it was easier to disqualify people to preponderance. And the Minnesota Minority Child Care Association, which was run by a group of Somali providers, opposed it, and DHS went along with their recommendation. And in a similar vein, we were trying to reduce the number of child care employees with children that could work in these child care centers, because that was one of the vectors of fraud, and they opposed that.
So you had the Somali community who on purpose was petitioning the state of Minnesota to lower the standards to be able to make sure that fraud could not be caught. Is that correct?
Well, they wanted to keep the standard clear and convincing, which makes it harder to disqualify people.
So it makes it harder for them to be disqualified from wasting taxpayer funds. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ms. Robbins, I want to stay with you. I want to talk about use of funds. You've talked about some of these funds were used to buy property in Kenya.
Yes, sir.
Property in Turkey. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Remittances back to Somalia.
Yes.
I think it's important for the committee to understand that these remittances in part are used in what's called the Hawala. I want to make sure I have the terminology right. The Hawala network. Ms. Robbins, can you speak to what the Hawala network is?
Yes. So it's an informal network where someone goes to a Hawala place in Minneapolis, which is like a money exchange or a money sending site, and they say, I want to send X amount of dollars. And then there's a receiving site in Somalia, and they put take the cash out. So money doesn't cross the border. It's an order for money here that gets transmitted to Somalia.
For the time, because I'm out of time, I want to expound. In Somalia and other parts in the Middle East region writ large, a Hawala network is a bunch of money exchangers, hand to hand, not bank account to bank account.
Exactly.
And what is clear in Somalia and other parts is that Al-Shabaab, the largest Al-Qaeda affiliate in Somalia, they have their hands all through this network. So taxpayer money, United States dollars that are being remitted into Somalia in parts have been utilized or have fell into the hands of Al-Shabaab. Do you think that's a correct assessment?
Yes, we have plenty of evidence of that, from money directly going to Al-Shabaab, but then also indirectly because they take a cut of whatever gets sent to Somalia.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I know I'm over. Thank you for the additional time.
Mr. Chair, I seek recognition for unanimous consent request.
Chair recognizes Ms. Presley.
I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a December 2025 article from the
Back Chair now recognizes Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hudson, who is Salim Saeed and Amy Bach?
I recognize those names as defendants in the Feeding Our Future trial.
They ran Feeding Our Future, is that right?
That's correct.
And they've been indicted?
That's correct.
They've been convicted?
That's correct.
And they're in jail waiting sentences, is that right?
As I understand it.
Okay, I want to go back because earlier with Mr. Gill, you said that they overlooked the fraud. I think it's worse than that. I think they helped it along. I'm going to go to this meeting that took place, or actually I want to go to March 30th, 2021. Is it true back in March of 2021, the Minnesota Department of Education suspended payments to Feeding Our Future, that program? Is that right?
I believe that's correct.
And then a month later, they resumed payments.
That's correct.
What caused them to change their mind?
In my opinion, what caused them to change their mind was pushback from their constituency within the Somali community, who accused the state agencies of being racist.
But what caused them to stop it in the first place? Was it whistleblowers coming forward? Was it like this something's not right here? What happened?
Apologize for the misunderstanding. The reason they stopped the funds in the first place is because they had credible allegations that there was fraud taking place.
From whistleblowers and others.
Correct.
And just they're doing their job looking, this doesn't make sense. We got all these programs, no one's getting fed, and yet money's going out the door like crazy. So they suspended it. And then they started it back up, right? Was there any threat of a lawsuit from the Somali community and folks affiliated with Feeding Our Future?
Mr. Jordan, there was more than a threat. They actually did it.
They did? And what was the alleged claim in that lawsuit?
That they were victims of racial discrimination.
Oh, they played the race card, huh? All this fraud going on, money going out, and they played the race card.
They learned from the Black Americans.
When I talked about not just overlooking it, there was a meeting that took place between the Attorney General and affiliates of Feeding Our Future. Is that right?
That is correct.
And what happened at that meeting? Do we know?
Yeah, we do, because we have it on tape. There was an audio recording made at that meeting that was entered into evidence in the Feeding Our Future trial, and it was later revealed through work from Center of the American Experiments, the full recording. And my observations of what took place in that meeting was that Attorney General Keith Ellison was focused on one thing and one thing only, and that was keeping these folks in business. There were no questions that he asked of these folks about how the kids are doing, the operation, how they're getting fed, who's being helped. Instead, the focus was entirely on ensuring that the money continues to flow. And I'll add that he went so far as to say that he was going to fight these people in reference to the state agencies. The state agencies are his client.
Yeah. And when you said money's going to flow, did money flow to Mr. Ellison's campaign a couple weeks later from some of the folks who were in that meeting?
Sure did.
How much, do we know how much that was?
I do not have that number.
So it wasn't just overlooking the fraud. They were actively trying to make sure this program continued, and then they benefited from that politically with contributions to their campaign, all in this same year, all in 2021, when this was all coming to a head. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding.
And this fraud is much bigger than this, because as I look, it's like 6 different federal agencies. Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, Small Business Association, Housing, Urban Development, Department of Labor, Department of Agriculture, in this program and a bunch of others. They were shaking down the entire federal government, it looked like. 6 different federal agencies. I think you pointed out, over the last 15 years?
That's correct.
And not only are the Democrat administration overlooking it, they're helping it along. They're assisting it. They're going after whistleblowers, as your colleague pointed out. And they're benefiting from all this politically with contribution to their campaign, not to mention the voting issue that you referenced earlier as well. Is that all accurate?
I believe so.
Oh, now there's more than 6 agencies involved. There's 6 federal agencies that got shaken down, but there's 2 other agencies involved now, the FBI and the DOJ, right? How many people have been indicted now?
I do not have that number in front of me, but it's significant.
And I don't know how long y'all been in the legislature. We appreciate your work, appreciate what you do. But have you ever seen anything like this in your time in the I've never seen anything like this in an ATF. Miss Robbins, you're the chair.
No, sir, we have never seen anything on this scale. It is unbelievable. As Joe Thompson said, it is breathtaking and cannot be overstated.
Yeah. Well, God bless you all. Miss Rankin, or Miss Rarick, excuse me, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you. So I've been there since 2013, and I have been yelled at by Democrats over and over again throughout our time there to say that there is no fraud. This is just made up.
Yeah, this is the template. You see this all the time. The left will tell a lie. We're feeding kids when they're not, when they're just shaking down the taxpayer. The left will tell a lie. The media will report the lie or not report when the truth comes out. And then when you tell the truth, they call you racist. It's as old as time. We see it all the time. This is so wrong. God bless you all for coming forward and getting the facts to the people in Minnesota, and more importantly, to the people of this great country. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bobert from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. Representative Robbins, did your fraud prevention committee raise formal concerns about suspected child care fraud to DHS or state leadership before federal indictments were issued?
So the original federal indictments came before I was elected back in 2015 or so, and then we thought DHS had cleaned it up, and they did not. So we did a hearing last February of 2025, and we provided them a list of child care facilities we thought they should check out. My understanding is they have not. And so we're hoping that they will take this seriously and go investigate with on-site visits what's going on in these child care facilities.
And when you raised awareness, were the Governor Tim Walz, and the Attorney General made aware of these warnings?
Oh, I'm sure.
Did the state leadership fail to act promptly? I mean, it kind of sounds like they did if you still haven't received any information regarding these warnings.
Yes, we don't know that they took any action with the list we gave them.
And Representative Robbins, what recommendations from your committee were given and ignored?
So in general, we always try to look at internal controls, and we've asked, I mean, it's not complicated. We want them to go make sure recipients are eligible, that providers are eligible, that services are actually being provided. Our staff has gone to many of these places. And so it's not just the Nick Shirley video. Our staff has gone and looked at this, and there are literally no one there during business hours. Some of the offices where we have the address are empty. Like there's no furniture. So they are not doing their job.
Thank you. Mr. Ballou, does the Department of Justice have more resources to uncover fraud than a 20-year-old YouTuber?
Yes, but those resources are declining.
Are they still more than a 20-year-old YouTuber with a cell phone camera?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the primary office that would be responsible for prosecuting public corruption, which is what is being alleged today, has essentially been decimated. Most of the attorneys have been fired.
Was it decimated when you were there? Was there funding there then?
Yeah, so
it was there then. So why did the Department of Justice under the Biden administration ignore repeated attempts to uncover this massive fraudulent misuse of taxpayer dollars?
As you may recall, the indictment actually happened during the Biden administration.
And what action has been taken in the state to ensure that this isn't happening? Because we just saw dozens and dozens of centers that are receiving hundreds of millions of dollars collectively that are not functionally operational.
Yeah, well, in 2022, under the Biden administration, over 70 people were indicted for exactly this scheme.
So, Mr. Ballou, yes or no? A Medicaid program with low barriers to entry and minimal reimbursement requirements, that's something that would be highly vulnerable to fraud if oversight is weak, correct?
Exactly, and the challenge is that oversight is being cut further.
Thank you for your answer. Mr. Ballou, yes or no? When a program projected at $2.6 million explodes to over $100 million annually, that's a glaring red flag.
The problem that we have is that all the oversight at the federal level.
Yes or no? Is that a red flag when a $2.6 million program
the challenge that we have
explodes to over $100 million? Yes or no?
The offices that
yes
are
no,
responsible for identifying those red flags are being defunded.
Mr. Ballou, yes or no? When the same individuals or networks bill multiple Medicaid programs, that indicates organized fraud.
And the challenge that we have is
yes or no? Does that indicate fraud when you're getting the same individuals and networks that are billing multiple Medicaid programs?
Precisely the offices that would identify that are being defunded.
As they should be. Mr. Ballou, yes or no? Did the Biden administration cover this up for political reasons? Because uncovering fraud on this massive scale would have hurt the 2024 Democrat vice presidential candidate.
Just so I understand, are you saying that the offices that uncover fraud should be defunded?
I'm saying that these programs and the fraud that is taking place should be defunded.
My understanding is what you were just saying is that the fraud programs.
So no, we need to uncover these, but they're
and the challenge
these
that
actual
we have
programs
is that, those
that are
offices
ballooning to $100 million. And if you could get back to the question I just asked, was this covered up because you thought it would hurt the 2024 Democrat vice presidential candidate?
The office
Governor
that would
Tim
investigate
Walz.
that kind
Yes or
of
no?
alleged public integrity
Yes or no?
fraud has been defunded.
In 2024, it was not defunded. And was this covered up to protect a vice presidential candidate? Yes or no, Mr. Ballou?
Prior to 2024, over 70 indictments were brought under the Biden
Mr. Ballou, was this covered up to protect a political candidate?
Once again, that office has been defunded, and there are
thank you, Mr. Ballou. I'm sorry that you're not answering questions before this committee correctly. Thank you.
Right. The simple fact that he refuses to say yes or no should tell you everything that you need to know. All right, y'all, let's get out of here. I just want to give y'all the groundwork to show y'all exactly that, Tim Walz will eventually be going to jail, as will Ilhan Omar and the state attorney general, along with a whole lot of Somalians. Not all, but enough. Y'all be safe out there. Peace.
Now, gentlemen, Mr. Butler's been up north, I hear. Don't you agree with us, Mr. Butler? I think it's hard winning a war with words, gentlemen. What do you mean, sir? I mean, Mr. Hamilton, there's not a cannon factory in the whole South. What difference does that make, sir, to a gentleman? I'm afraid it's going to make a great deal of difference to a great many gentlemen, sir.
Are you hinting, Mr. Butler, that the Yankees can lick us?
No, I'm not hinting. I'm saying very plainly that the Yankees are better equipped than we. They've got factories, shipyards, coal mines, and a fleet to bottle up our harbors and starve us to death. All we've got is cotton and slaves and arrogance.
That's treachery! A problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
All right, hi. Thanks for the fun.
Get the fuck out!